Hello everyone, it's a new week here on Betting Weekly Game Bet Match, number one betting podcast and YouTube show brought to you in association with Bet Rivers, your hometown sportsbook. I'm Nigel Seeley. It's a big week of tennis, looking ahead to the final 1,000 of the year in Paris. I'm delighted to say joining me is a man who's usually there this time of year. He's been there the last couple of years, but he's aimed Leon C instead. It is our senior ATP Tour handicapper. It is Sean Calvert. Didn't fancy this year, Sean?
Nope. I most certainly did.
I know why.
I most certainly did not.
Why.
You don't want me to go into why, do you? I mean,
well, some people might not know why. But we like to start off with a bit of a win from Mr. Calvert. Why won't you go this year?
It's horrible. It's just a terrible tournament. There's not much good about it at all. If you've not been and you don't know the layout,
I don't think you're selling it very well if someone hasn't been.
Well, if they haven't been, it's tough because this is the last year that it's going to be at this venue, Bercy. It's moving somewhere else in Paris next year. So I might well go next year. We were just talking about it actually. I probably will go next year because it's at a new venue. But this Bercy venue, it's terrible. You've got the one main court, which is fine, great, no problem. But it's a 1 week Masters. You've got a ton of matches to get through. A lot of the matches are in courts 1 and court 2, which are downstairs. I call them the lower dungeons because it is like a lower dungeon. It's all dark and dingy down there. It takes forever to get in because I don't think they sell tickets to those courts. I think you just have to queue up. Sometimes it's okay, you can get in. Other times it will take you forever to get in. And the queues to get into the actual venue itself, it's all right on sort of the first couple of days, but after sort of Wednesday, you're queuing for about at least an hour, I would say, outside. In all weathers, by the way. It normally rains in Paris this time of year. It's all right in Lyon C. Actually, it's quite nice and bright today. But not somewhere I want to go again. I like going to tournaments that I've not been to. You know, I've done this one a couple of times, and it's not the most pleasant experience, I have to say. So that's out. But next year, it could be in.
Yeah, if you are going, enjoy the tennis. And if you are going, hopefully we can steer you in the way of some winners. We have a big match today for us. Last week, if you watched the show, Sean gave a win-only pick on the Brit, Jack Draper, in the tournament in Vienna, and he's through to the final. We're recording this early, so we don't know how he's got on, but 9-1 he was picked by Sean to win this event, and he's now a heavy minus money favourite up against Karin Khachanov. So hopefully, by the time this drops and you're watching this show, we would have cashed on a future winner and go into the tournament in great form. Before we go on to this week's tournament, good pick that. Draper, give us a good run for our money. Done, he's into the final, looking good.
Yeah.
So let's hopefully we can get a winner. We need one, so it'd be nice to get a winner there.
I hope so. I mean, it's you're always worried about Draper. I watched the semi-final, obviously against Massetti, and he was on his haunches again, wasn't he? Had the ice packs out. He's the only player I've ever seen with an ice pack or several ice packs on indoor hard in October. I know it gets hot in those arenas with with the lights and stuff, but it's hardly Brisbane, is it? he had ice packs on everything. If Massetti hadn't have absolutely donated his serve away at the end of the second set, I felt like if it had gone to a third, I was concerned, that's for sure. But he's had a day off now. Khachanav's played a ton of tennis as well. Last couple of weeks, short period of time. He's another one we had backed him a couple of times, didn't I? Again, too early, a week or two too early. Now he's made 2 finals in a row, so that's kind of been a bit of a theme this season. But hopeful on Draper, obviously.
Yep, they're both in action this week at a very big tournament. It's the 1,000 event over in Paris. So we'll look at the draw, we'll look at the contenders, we'll look at the odds with Bet Rivers, break down the bracket as well, the usual, and we also have 5 first-round matches to discuss here as well. But before we go into the nuts and bolts of it, the conditions here, I mean, we know it's pretty queuey up to get. You've got to queue up for a long time to get in. It's a big arena. We've got the dungeon downstairs. What are we looking at in terms of conditions for these players who are turning up to this event?
Yeah, it varies by court, as most indoor hard court tournaments do. At least this one's not like Vienna, where you've got to get a bus to the second court. It is in the same venue, but very different. Centre court's usually slower. It was 40.4 CPI last year. It's court pace index. That's actually not that slow, but the balls they use here are head balls. They're pretty slow. Court 1 was clocked at 43.2, and Court 2, which is next door to Court 1, the second of the lower dungeons, that was 43.0. So the second courts, the lower dungeon courts, are a reasonable bit quicker. So if you are backing overs, tie breaks, I would certainly be inclined to do it down there. rather than the centre court, which is usually a bit stodgy. I've looked at the last 3 editions. It averages 80.7% holds and 72.7% first serve points won in the last 3 editions. That makes it slightly slower than Vienna and Basel that we saw last week. It's not quite as quick as that. But as I say, it varies by the court. 39% of the matches have featured a tiebreak in the last 3 editions. I've only done the last 3 editions because going back further than that on indoor hard, it's changed so many times, this court. If you probably remember back in the day, it used to be lightning quick, didn't it? When Michael Lodra was playing his serve and volley, he used to get, I think he beat Djokovic here one year, Lodra. It used to be super quick back then. It was back even further, it was carpet. So they change it every year to whatever speed they sort of see fit. So over 10.5 games in set 1, last 3 editions, only 24% of those have gone over. But as I say, I would be looking at the scheduling of the court. I certainly wouldn't be backing too many over 10.5 in set 1 on the main court, which is slower. Zverev talked about it last year. He said it's the lowest bouncing court he's ever played on, which he says makes the slice very effective. And that brings in players like Dimitrov, who's got a good record here, made the final last year, lost to Djokovic, I think. I think he's won 13 of his last 17 matches here, Dimitrov. So and obviously he's one of the better slicers around. So that would kind of fit with what Zverev was complaining about there. Nothing really on the over and unders. Underdog winners, it's not that great. People look at Paris and think, a lot of upsets. Yes, sometimes you do get upsets, and sometimes they're quite big ones, but they're not frequent. It only averages 32% underdog winners, which is kind of mediocre. The best one is the opening round, as you would probably expect, which is 37%. So you do get an all right amount of underdog winners in round 1. Do you want the trends?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, this is all the stuff we want.
I don't want to impinge on your section if you were thinking of saying something.
No.
So Novak Djokovic on 5 occasions is the only number 1 seed to have won here this century. I'll give you 50 quid if you can name me the previous number 1 seed that won here before Djokovic without looking it up. It was in.
I won't look it up.
I'll give you a clue.
I will go.
It was in 1999.
1999, number 1 seed.
Yeah, I'm not really going to give you 50
Andre Agassi.
Yeah, I'm definitely not going to give you 50 quid.
Was it Andre Agassi?
Yeah, Andre Agassi.
Oh, I didn't look that up. I promise you, I did not look that up.
Yeah, put it in the comments whether I have to pay him or not.
Put it on the bill. Put it on the bill, mate.
How did you get that?
I just was thinking about 1999, who'd be up there, and I just thought Andre Agassi. I thought if it was someone a bit more like Sampras on there, it'd be a bit more obvious. I just went.
Yeah, Agassi won it in 99. He was the last number 1 prior to Novak Djokovic, who's won it 5 times as the number 1 seed, but no other number 1 seeds won it this century. So plenty of big price winners and finalists here, as you would expect. Dimitrov last year, 60-1 runner-up. Holger Rune won it here, won the title 50-1 the year before. Shapovalov was 100-1 when he was runner-up in 2019. Khachanov was 40-1 when he won it in 2018. And one of my best ones from previous years, Jack Sock, when he won it at 80-1 in 2017. So loads of big price winners and runners-up. And, that's understandable, isn't it? A lot of players come here tired or they've got their mind on other things like Turin or Tour Finals London, as it used to be. And the Davis Cup as well. And only one qualifier has been past round 3 since Filip Krajinovic made the final as a qualifier in 2017.
I had one of my biggest wins here ever. It was back in 2001. I bet Sebastian Grosjean to win it here. Oh, yeah. And the reason why is because he needed to win it, he needed to get to the final to get to the Tour Championships. And it was a big deal then. And in Paris, and I thought, I'm going to back Sebastian Grosjean. And it was when I had a few quid back in 2001.
You got 50 quid more than you had about 10 minutes ago now.
Well, exactly, I know. It's amazing. But, 2001, Sebastian Grosjean won that tournament. But it's been dominated by Novak Djokovic in recent years. I think he won 7 or 8 times now, isn't Novak Djokovic? While these other players are playing for the right to meet Novak Djokovic in the Tour Championships, you've got players who are very needed. Rude, Rublev, Dimitrov. So Dimitrov's got a good record. He's 10th. Those players needed to secure those final spots in Turin, which is one of the reasons why I bet. Well, it's the only reason I bet Sebastian Grosjean, and he was in good form back in the day. But also Novak Djokovic now, he's sitting on the beach in Maldives. He's just sitting on the beach in Maldives while all these players are playing, waiting to find out who he's going to play in Turin. So
if he's playing
over there.
He's not.
If he's playing, well, he might not fancy. He might stay another week.
I think I'd rather be at the Maldives, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah. Well, so that's all to come next one, not next week, the week after. The tennis season is almost over and we've got you covered on all the tournaments here. But let's have a look at the draw here, the all-important draw. No Djokovic, as I said, which means obviously Jannik Sinner is the world number one, clear world number one. He's number one seed in that top quarter. In that quarter, you will find Taylor Fritz, the number 5 seed, and they will play in the quarterfinals if it goes to the schedule. But in there as well, you've got Draper, who's obviously in this tournament playing well, but he could be a bit exhausted from his exertions here, and given his fitness problems, he would probably want to fade this week. Holger Rune, obviously won it here before. Diminor needs to win as well, so a tough quarter that for the number 1 seed and Jannik Sinner. In the second quarter, we have Zverev, the number 3 seed, and Rublev. Both of those are in different form. Zverev obviously has health issues. Rublev has probably health issues as well. But in that section there, you have Arthur Fils, the talented Frenchman, Musetti, Tsitsipas, who's not playing well, so that looks a more favourable quarter. In Q3, Dimitrov, we know he's got a good record here and needs the win or to go deep. Medvedev as well, who's a pretty former winner here. Hurkacz, Tiafoe, Berrettini, and Petri Perregard as well, who I think he plays Berrettini in the opening, or one of the opening rounds, or Tiafoe plays in the opening round. So that's a very interesting quarter, Q3. And in Q4, we have Casper Ruud, Alcaraz, Tommy Paul, and Hubert, which is probably the most easiest quarter of the draw in the bracket. Let's have a look at the odds, and no surprise to see, given the draw he has, Carlos Alcaraz is the favourite here at plus 170. Jannik Sinner, the number 1 seed, difficult draw in Q1, plus 240. Medvedev, $9. Zverev, 11. Taylor Fritz, 14. Dimitrov, 20. Rublev, 20. Tsitsipas, 30. Holger Rune, 40. Casper Ruud, 50. And then we go into 80 to 1 bar that. Diminor, Shelton, and into hundreds for Jack Draper, 120 for Arthur Fils and Hubert Hurkacz. It's dominated by Alcaraz and Sinner. Absolutely dominated this market. There's not good news coming out of the Sinner camp if you're a Sinner bettor. And Alcaraz, these two have had really, really long years. They've got the Tour Championship to come as well. What do they really? I know there's some money in this for them, but they've won a lot this year, and they must be out running on empty. So at plus 170 and 240, which is essentially around about 65%. Is that so? You're saying it's minus 200 that one of them wins this tournament. I think I want to fake that. Yeah,
I mean, particularly Jannik Sinner. He's not been too subtle in his quotes. He's basically said, "I'm interested in Turin." He's like, "I'm going for Turin." When he was asked about this tournament, he said, and I quote, "I hope it's a good tournament, even if it's going to be very, very difficult." I mean, to me, that just says I'm playing it, but my aim is on Turin. I'm saving myself for Turin. And his first match will probably be against Ben Shelton. And that for me is a bit of that could be, if he's not interested in it could be a bit of a get out that, because, that is not an easy match. Shelton's firing it on all cylinders at the minute on indoor hard. It's caused Sinner problems before in sort of lively conditions. So if Sinner doesn't fancy it this week, and I'm guessing he doesn't, judging by what he said, I could see him losing to Shelton, 7-6, 7-6, and going, "Thanks very much. My work here is done." I mean, he's still got the Davis Cup as well. I presume he's going to play that. I don't know. Italy are obviously in the finals. I can't imagine he won't play. So he's got two big things to go at in Italy or for Italy. So it's an easy thing to say. I mean, looking at the draw, I'm not sure it's that relevant. I think if Sinner wants to win it, he probably will. Or so if he wants to get to the final, chances are he probably will. But I just don't think he's up for it. Alcaraz, I'd say, is probably, if you must bet one of the two favourites, I'd probably go Alcaraz, because looking at his draw, unless he gets ambushed by Jiri, which doesn't seem likely given the way Jari's played in the last sort of 6 months or whatever, with his health problems that he's had. There's not a lot in there. Maybe Humbert if he's in the right mood this week, which he wasn't last week. What did he get? 3 or 4 match points up? He wasn't against Goffin. A lot managed to lose.
I'm done with Humbert.
Every time I back him, he does something weird like that. This section that Alcaraz in, Tommy Paul looked absolutely dead and buried last week. We profited from that, didn't we, with Nakashima? We backed Nakashima to beat him. Casper Ruud, you wouldn't fancy this time of the year. Medvedev has had injury problems. he was fit enough to play for the big money, wasn't he, over in Saudi? But he wasn't fit enough to play Vienna, apparently. I wonder why. And I mean, Dimitrov's he's the obvious choice, but he's too short, isn't he? 20-1.
Yeah.
And he was 60s last year.
Crazy price.
I mean, he's obviously 20-1 for a reason, and that reason being the obvious motivation for him that he can still make the Tour finals. If you believe that, it may be the case, it may not. He's still got to go out and do it, and he's played quite a lot of tennis in the last couple of weeks as well. I've forgotten what the question was now. Alcaraz and Sinner. Yeah.
I was just saying that, no, minus $2 they were combined. It must be there's got to be massive value elsewhere to oppose these two at these prices.
I mean, I'm going for two absolutely huge prices here, as you can probably imagine, which is what I like to do in Paris because, I've just read out the winners and the runners up, the big prices. It does happen, and it's obvious why. Because, this is a tournament which is in an unfortunate place in the calendar, really. There are obvious reasons for the top guys to not really fancy it this week. So, yeah, you want to know who they are?
Well, that would be nice.
I don't know whether you were coming in with another section before.
No. Of course we want to know. We want to know what it is, and I'm hoping that you were going to say one of the players that I like.
I mean, for me, as soon as I looked at these odds with Bet Rivers, I thought, this can't be right. 120-1 about Artur Fils.
Yes,
I mean,
come on. This is the boy. This is what we like to hear.
What's going on there? I just
how can
I don't
he
get
be
it.
6 times the price of Dimitrov? I mean, I know Dimitrov has got
Tsitsipas,
6 times the price of Rublev, 4 times the price of Tsitsipas. It's insane.
I mean, he's just handed Tsitsipas an not embarrassing, but very comprehensive victory, and he's 4 times the price. It doesn't make any sense. I mean, he arrived here last year. I watched him last year. One of the matches I saw on the main arena, actually. He was absolutely shattered. Lost very easily to Daniel Altmaier, who you wouldn't expect would do a great deal on a sort of low-bouncing indoor hardcourt. Altmaier beat him pretty easy. So I feel like he'll be keen. He'll remember that, and he'll be keen to show his best form in Paris this year. Now, obviously, a year on, he wasn't really expected to do much last year. I think the Paris crowd would have hoped that he'd won a couple of matches, but the expectation, I think, is bigger this year based on what he's done. Look at what he's done in his last 10 matches. Service points won and return points won, total of 105. 90% holds of serve. 81% first serve points won. And of those 10 matches, 6 of the opponents were top 25. Several of them were top 10, top 20, top 15. So he's recorded those stats against the best players in the world. The only doubt I have about him really is I'm still not, and it's a very small one, I'm still not totally convinced about him against a big serving left-hander like a Shelton, like maybe a Shapovalov or Humbert. Those type of players I think can cause him problems, but those are few and far between. There's not many of them around. His draw looks decent in Q2. Zverev looks like he's, as I've said many times, looks like he's running on fumes. Has been for a month or so, which isn't surprising considering he's supposedly had pneumonia. Not sure why he's playing at all, to be honest. He's played about 80 matches this season already. Doesn't need to be playing this really. He's already comfortably qualified for the Tour finals. I think Germany are in the Davis Cup as well, off the top of my head. So I'm not sure why he's playing here. Other than the fact that it's a mandatory, probably feels like he has to. Rublev is the other one, the high seed in that quarter. Hardly inspiring lately. He's had that operation after the US Open, and he looks like a player who's waiting for the season to end, really. And not a lot else. Tsitsipas, who Fils beat, as I said, very easily. Musetti's going to be a little bit tired. He wouldn't necessarily fancy him against some of these power players in these conditions. He's much improved on indoor hard, but not that much improved. So 120-1. Fils, yeah, gets through that quarter. If my idea is right about Sinner losing pretty early on, he might play Fritz, who's another one I sort of toyed with, but again, he's too short, 14-1. Maybe Shelton, and then to get to the final. So that's my plan in the top half of the draw. Artur Fils, 120-1. Looks much bigger than it should be to me.
Yeah, he was the one I liked at the prices as well. I mean, I was very keen on him last week in Basel, and how he lost that second set was 5-0 up against Shelton. But that could be a blessing in disguise. He hasn't got the final. He's beaten the semi-final. A good run. Feels confident. He can learn from that.
And he won't be too tired.
He's an exceptional talent. I love watching him play, and I think I've said this to you many occasions. I think he's a future Grand Slam champion, and I don't believe you're ever going to get 120-1 Artur Fils in a tournament like this. In the next 2 or 3 seasons, I think he's going to be a player who's going to emerge as a top 10. He's up to the top 20 in the world. He can even go higher than that. And what I've seen from this kid, I really, really like. And 120-1 at home as well. And compare that to Tsitsipas. Compare that to Casper Ruud, for example. Casper Ruud, he's absolutely given up for the year. And he's over double the price of Casper Ruud.
A low bouncing indoor hardcourt.
6 times the price of Dimitrov.
Doesn't sound...
Come on, do me a favour. It's a big, big price. So, yes, I agree with that one.
Yeah, I mean, you can't see someone like Ruud doing it. Rune is a possibility, but he's very in and out, isn't he? He'll just put in a bad one. He'll go all right to the sort of quarter semis, then he'll just have a bad match and he's out. He's a possibility, but the one in the bottom half is much more of a punt. And it's based on the price, really. Again, same price as Artur Fils, 120-1 about Hubert Hurkacz. The punt is just the fitness. That's it. Normally, Hurkacz is about, 25, 33-1 to win Masters 1000s, or generally. He was 33-1 when we had him to win Shanghai last year. It just seems a crazy price. I mean, it's a strange time for him to be coming back. If you don't know what happened to him, he got injured at Wimbledon. And they said he was going to be out for the season with his knee injury. And he came back really quick, didn't he? He came back within about a month or something. Yeah, he came back in, I think, Montreal, like a month or so later. And he was wearing those leggings and everyone was thinking, well, hang on a minute. But for me, he came back far too quickly. Obviously wasn't fully ready. Now he's taken another month or so off. Why would you come back now if you're not fully fit? It wouldn't make any sense. He would just take the rest of the season off if he wasn't fully ready for this. I mean, technically, he could still qualify for the Tour Finals. It's a massive long shot, but if he wins this tournament, some of the others struggle, like a Ruud, Rublev, these guys. We don't know if Djokovic is playing. That might free up another place. All of a sudden, he could be thinking, well, I'll take a wild card into the 250 next week in Metz, win that. I'm in. Possible. These are all theories, obviously, but it's certainly possible for him because he's the best server on tour. Everyone says it once they've played him. I think he's number one in serve quality in the ATP rankings. That gets him through a lot of matches. He'll probably be rusty. I'll talk about him a bit more later. He's obviously going to be rusty first match, but if he wins a couple of matches, gets through to sort of third round, then quarterfinals, he's a real contender. You wouldn't want to be facing a fresh Hurkacz serving bombs on an indoor hardcourt, in the quarterfinals if you're someone like a Medvedev, a Dimitrov, Alcaraz even. So, yeah, it's a punt because we don't know how fit he is. He's also split up with his coach, Craig Boynton, as well. That was about a month ago. It could be the case that he's had someone new on board this last month and he's been, working through ideas with them. I don't know. He hasn't said anything publicly, but that's quite possible. He's been getting advice from somebody else. So he's a danger, 120. He could lose in the first round if he's not fit, but the question is, why would you come back now if you're not fit? Doesn't make any sense. So, yeah, 120-1. Those are the two prices. When I looked at this with Bet Rivers, I thought, well, they aren't right. So that's where I'm going.
Yeah, big prices. Artur Fils, 121. Hubert Hurkacz, 20-1 as well for the win. The 1,000 in Paris. They both face quite difficult opponents in round one. Artur Fils plays Marian Cilic, who's capable of
it's a hard
producing
draw,
a shock. And
isn't it, for everyone?
Hurkacz faces Michelsen. The young American who's doing well at the moment. We're going to come on to that match in a minute. So they're our picks to win the tournament. Some big, big prices there. Make sure you head across to the Bet Rivers website. Make sure you subscribe to this YouTube channel. Make sure you get all the content that we're doing here, not only on the tennis, also on the soccer as well. Lots of winners galore. And Roy Giovanni had a nice winner on the WTA show as well. And there's 3 tournaments on the WTA show this week. Now let's move across to the matches. And we have 5 matches we are going to discuss. The first match features a young Italian on the way up and a Frenchman who's on his farewell tour. It's Flavio Cobolli up against Richard Gasquet. Richard Gasquet. I think we watched Richard Gasquet. Me and you watched Richard Gasquet against Casper
Ruud, yeah.
Yeah, and I think he did well in the first set and then his legs ran out. That was a couple of years ago, so I don't know what his legs are going to be like now.
He'll
but
be
Cobolli is the... Cobolli's the favourite, -210 to win this match. If you want to bet the Frenchman, who's probably in his last match at Paris, he's +165. The spread is 2.5, and the over here is 22.5. They have met once before in 2023 in the Challenger on clay, which Gasquet won. This is an interesting one because we've been getting with a lot of these sort of veteran players to win the first set. And then, we looked at Wawrinka and other players who've sort of come out. Fognini was another popular bet.
Yeah.
Win the first set and then their legs sort of get tired. Is that an angle we're looking at here, or are we going to go a little bit more on the taking the Frenchman?
Slightly different angle, but I mean, this just has quite a few of the factors that are required for me for a possible upset. I mean, Cobolli's come here having retired just a few days ago in Vienna with a shoulder injury. Retired against de Minaur, I think, after the first set and a half. I think he played, shoulder injury, couldn't carry on. He's another one for whom this season is not over. He's got the Davis Cup finals in a few weeks' time. He's not going to want to aggravate that injury. You wouldn't have thought, especially as he helped Italy qualify by beating Tallon Griekspoor on indoor hard in the last Davis Cup round. So you would imagine he would not want to turn up in Malaga with an injury. He'd be ready for the finals. I can't imagine this first round against Gasquet is going to make that much difference to him. It's certainly a big deal for Gasquet. It's his last ever appearance at the Paris Masters. He's retiring at the French Open next season, so it's not his last appearance in the city, but it is his last appearance here. So he's going to be hugely motivated to go well. We've seen this many, many times before. When a player is about to retire, they play above themselves. A couple of years ago, we saw Gilles Simon, for whom this was his last ever tournament. And he came in having done nothing for like 6 months prior to that. He came in, beat Andy Murray, beat Taylor Fritz, both as big underdogs. And that was his final tournament. That was his farewell. It does happen. Gasquet, it's not like he's been barely playing and he's come back here to sort of say goodbye. When he has played at main level latterly, in recent times, he's shown up very well when he's motivated. He'll certainly be motivated here. He's already beaten Cobolli before. He's going to fancy this. I'm just not sure. Gasquet should. I'm almost certain he'll fancy this. I'm far from certain that Cobolli will fancy it. You will get paid with Bet Rivers if Cobolli retires after the opening set, which wouldn't be any surprise to me at all. Yeah, he's an injured player. You don't want to be backing injured players at -210 in the last week of the season against a massively motivated opponent. So, yes, it's a punt, but Gasquet for me +165.
Yeah, he's going to be a very, very popular selection with bettors. He's going to be very, very popular in the stadium, where he's a player that's really, really popular in France wherever he goes. He's probably a player his career is never, ever living up to his expectations. But that's an early start tomorrow. 5 a.m. Eastern time, that match will start in Paris. I'm sorry, I was distracted. My
was that your Ring doorbell or something?
Yeah, did you hear
Yeah.
it? Someone's at my Ring doorbell, and there's no one in the house, so they keep ringing and
Was
ringing.
it a Sainsbury's delivery?
No, it wasn't a Sainsbury's delivery. Actually, I'm more of a Waitrose man myself, mate.
I can imagine.
Yeah. Marks and Spencers, and there are some very nice supermarkets around as well. But 5 a.m. Early start, Cobolli against Richard Gasquet. We move now across to the match which features our pick today, Jack Draper. He's up against Lehecka. Now that's scheduled for Monday, but I don't know. I'm not quite sure whether that will probably be played on Monday. But if it is,
That'll be Tuesday, I would
you
think.
would expect Drape. Yeah. Draper's a favourite here, heavy favourite, heavy favourite-ish, -$2 against Lehecka +155. Very similar prices to the Cobolli match. 2.5 is the spread, and 22.5 is the total. They met in Adelaide earlier this year, and Lehecka won in the final in Adelaide, 6-3 in a best of 3 set match. But Jack Draper, you said it. If his body holds up, he's going to go to the final. He's in the final of Vienna. Could come through a really, really long match here against a dangerous opponent in Khachanov. It could be it could be a long one. And now he's got a tough first round opener here, isn't he?
Yeah, this just looks a silly price, really. -$2, Jack Draper. I mean, maybe if all things were equal, maybe somewhere approaching that price. I mean, he was actually underdog. I'm sorry, he wasn't. He was 1.57 when he played Lehecka in that match in Adelaide. So shorter now than he was then. And he's come in here on this very, very difficult turnaround. We haven't seen the Vienna final yet. I think whatever happens, unless Draper somehow wins it like 6-2, 6-1, which I'm not sure that's going to happen. It's another big effort for him. As I said, I watched him against Musetti yesterday. He looked kind of out on his feet towards the end of the second set. Now he's got another match, and he's got a very quick turnaround. It's a different surface. It's different balls. And there just isn't much time to get used to it. He's going to have maybe a day at best, I think. I assume this match will be Tuesday, so I imagine maybe he'll travel over tonight, sort of Sunday night, and then he'll have Monday to maybe have a bit of a hit. But it's not much of a break, is it? And Lehecka talked about the mistakes that he made after Antwerp, which led to him being fatigued for Vienna. We talked about his match, didn't we, with Martinez? I think I said Martinez he's a pest. He's not going to go away easily, and he ended up winning it easily, didn't he, Martinez? And I thought it was really interesting what Lehecka said, but and slightly bizarre. What he said was, and I quote, he said, "The day before the match, I trained more hours than normal, which turned out to be a bad move. I was physically and mentally exhausted. I lacked the mental energy to be able to focus and jump into a match rhythm. Unfortunately, I trained more instead of resting." I read that and I thought, is this a joke? I mean,
sounds like my kind of training.
It doesn't make any. He played the final at Antwerp on the Sunday, looked absolutely shattered, went across to Vienna and decided, because he'd missed a day of training during the travelling, he decided to train harder the day before the match against Martinez. Am I missing something here? It seems so blatantly obvious that you would not do that. I don't know who gave him that idea, whether it was his own idea or whatever, but very, very strange. You would think that Lehecka's, now that he's learnt that fairly obvious lesson, would be very keen to make up for it. Well, obviously, Draper, as I said, he had some tough matches in Vienna. He still hasn't played the final. So it could be a good time for Lehecka and a good opportunity for Lehecka to make up for that strange error last week. He obviously won their only prior career meeting, as you said, so it just doesn't seem like this is going to be an easy match for Draper by any stretch of the imagination in these conditions, these circumstances. So Lehecka for me, plus 155 for Bet Rivers. Yeah, I think that's decent.
Yeah, I like that. A lot of different markets available on this match. Available Bet Rivers, 28 different markets, the handicaps, the spreads. Lehecka could win the first set, but I think opposing Jack Draper, given his problems with his physicality and his shape after a long week. I know it's not far, the travelling, very quick, but it's a quick turnaround.
Different conditions,
very different conditions. Make sure you head across to the BetRivers website, download the app as well. You'll be able to live stream all these matches in Paris on your phone, your mobile device, or your tablets or your home computer. You'll be able to bet live and watch live with BetRivers. Next up is a clash between two very, very big servers. It's Alexei Popyrin and Matteo Berrettini, two players who have must be pretty exhausted after the seasons that they've had. If you're looking at the head-to-head record, you'll be all over Berrettini because he leads 3-0. There was once at the US Open in 2019, once in Vienna in 2021, and they played in the UTS event where Berrettini won, if you count that as a head-to-head as well. Berrettini, though, has seen some money here with that head-to-head as well. He's minus 186. I won't be betting him at 186. Popyrin is plus 150, but as I say, after his run to the US Open and his form winning the 1,000 event as well in Canada, he hasn't really done much. His spread is 1.5, and the total, as you would expect, is a very, very high 24.5. I mean, this one here, it's really which one do you trust the most out of these two? And the way I look at it, I don't really trust either of them.
I think this is a terrible price on Berrettini. I really do. It's at minus 186. It must be just on the head-to-head because it can't be on recent form. It certainly can't be on recent stats. I mean, the head-to-head was a long time ago. The US Open was, 2019? 5 years ago?
Yep.
Even the most recent one was quite a long time ago, wasn't it? 2021, that was almost exactly 3 years ago. So, things are very different now. I watched Berrettini a few days ago against Kachanov, and he was awful, Berrettini. I mean, Kachanov should have won that even easier than he did. Terrible level from Berrettini. And that was against a player in Kachanov that Berrettini had a 4-0, I think, head-to-head against prior to that match. And Kachanov overturned that head-to-head very, very comfortably. If you look at what these two have done at main level, this season on all hard courts, that's outdoors and indoors, Popyrin's miles ahead. Service points won and return points won, total of 104 compared to 99 for Berrettini. Service hold and break total 107 for Popyrin, 101 for Berrettini. And breaking the stats down slightly further, Popyrin's ahead in every category, wins more first serve points, more second serve points, more return points, holds serve more often, creates more break point chances. So there's nothing in these stats to suggest that Berrettini should even be favourite, let alone minus 186. As I said, the head-to-head was a long time ago. I mean, Popyrin's he's only played 3 matches in a month. So I know he had that big summer, but 3 matches in a month, it should be enough time for him to have had a bit of a rest. He's another one for whom the season isn't over. He's got to play, or presumably will play, I'm pretty sure he will, for Australia in the Davis Cup finals. And, he's only played 1 match on indoor hard, which he lost to Mensik in Vienna last week. So he does need a little bit of match practice. You could perhaps argue the same about Berrettini. He's presumably going to play Davis Cup as well. But, Berrettini's played a lot more matches in the last couple of weeks than Popyrin has. And he obviously has a body which is prone to breaking down on a very regular basis. He's also just announced that he's split with his coach, Francisco Roig Berrettini, which for me is never a good sign with an injury-prone player. I think I said it a while ago when Thiem was making his comeback and he split with Matteo. I didn't like that, and it proved to be correct because Thiem just sort of slid into retirement after that. I'm not saying that's going to happen with Berrettini, but it's not, for me, it isn't a great sign. So plus 150 about Popyrin. Statistically, it's very good value indeed.
Yeah, a surprising move though for Berrettini. The line is moving on Berrettini, so you might want to hold out. Popyrin might get a bigger price nearer when the two take to the court. As I said, tomorrow the action starts at 5 a.m. We do not know the order of play yet, but it's a nice early start. So the best advice I can do is head across to the Bet Rivers website and place your bets early in case you missed the match. But it's 5 a.m. on Monday morning. The action in Paris gets underway. Next matchup is Tallon Griekspoor against Darderi, another Italian, another player on the up in his career. Griekspoor leads the head-to-head 1-0. They met in the French Open this year. Griekspoor won 7-6, 6-3, 6-3. But he's a very, very heavy favourite here. Minus 435. Darderi is plus 325. Spread 1.5. Total 22.5. This wouldn't be a match that I would choose to pick here. So I'm intrigued to see where you're going to go here. I'm sure you're going to make a case for Darderi, but I'm not convinced it'll be on the money line. But let's have a see what you're going to say about this one.
Yeah, it's not on the money line. I think that would be a stretch too far. If you are going to back set one overs at this tournament, you've got to do it in the lower dungeons, and I presume that's where this match is going to be played. I can't imagine this being on centre court. It could be, I suppose, but very, very surprised if it was. It looks quite a decent value for the set one overs. We know Griekspoor holds serve an awful lot on indoor hard and isn't always the best on return of serve. And Darderi has performed, for me, above expectations at certain times, away from the clay this season. He has got some weapons. He has got decent pop on his first serve, decent forehand. He can hit, this guy. He's not just a grinder by any means. Looking at what he's done, 6 of Darderi's last 7 opening sets have gone to either 10, 11 or 12 games. He's played at least 1 tiebreak in 6 of his 11 hard court matches that he's played since the Olympics. I watched him against Jack Draper in the opening. Well, I watched the whole match, but I watched the opening set in particular against Draper Darderi versus Draper in Vienna last week, and that ended up being 7-5 to Draper, who broke right at the end of that set. I also remember watching on my phone Darderi against Struff in Halle. I think I was sat on the centre court at Queen's watching some match or other, and I think we'd had Struff. I think we had him to win the tournament or something. And I was watching that match on the phone, and it ended up being 12-10 in the final set, tiebreak. Struff just about overcame Darderi on grass. So he can be a tough opponent to overcome initially on the away from the clay. Once Draper had won that set 7-5, it was game over against Darderi. But this pair played an opening set tiebreak on the clay at Roland Garros as well. So for me, set one overs is the way to go here if this is on one of the lower dungeon courts, which I assume it will be, and it's plus 180 with Bet Rivers. So I think that's one that you wouldn't necessarily think of for set one overs, but I think it's got potential.
Yeah, plus 180 is currently the price. Over 10.5, you want to go higher. Over 12.5 is plus 270 as well, if you want to go for a tiebreak. That could be a good strategy when the order of play comes out, Sean, to go for those ones in the dungeon courts on the over 10.5.
Yeah, if they're the right players, obviously, it's got to be the right matches. But yeah, as I said, I certainly wouldn't be backing that too often on the centre court unless it's, I don't know, Shelton against Mpechi Perigard or something like that. You wouldn't get a good price on that anyway. So yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Yep. Final match we are going to discuss features our 120-1 pick to win the tournament. It's Hubert Hurkacz. Last year, as you know, we had the T-shirts printed up. He was our main man. Every time we picked him, we had the best record on Hurkacz, more than any other player on the year last year on matches and also on the tournament winners as well. He's more money than any other player since we've been doing this, and hopefully he can continue here today. So he's up against Alex Michelsen, the young American. Big servers. Hurkacz here is minus 139 on the money line with Bet Rivers. If you want to bet the Michelsen, I'm sure he'll be popular with the American public. He's plus 112. The spread here is 1.5, and the total here is 23.5. Never played before these two. But as we are looking at this now, as I'm watching the line movements, Bet Rivers are the best price in the world. Michelsen. He is plus 112. That is a standout price, and judging by the way I think this will go, I think this could start a lot closer than that. So if you are going to bet Hurkacz, you might want to leave it till nearer the time because the money definitely is coming for Michelsen. We've got Hurkacz to win. Very surprised that you're going to have a pick on this one because he's carrying our money on the outright market.
Yeah, I'm not on the money line though. I mean, again, this is a set one overs job. I don't know whether I can't see this being on the main court either. Really, a guy coming back from injury like Hurkacz, I can't imagine this one will be on the main court. I think this will be on court 1 or court 2. So odds of plus 155 that Bet Rivers are offering about set one over 10.5. It always looks decent when Hurkacz is involved. And it's on a reasonable pace surface. I mean, this isn't the quickest, but it will be reasonably quick down there in those courts. If you've not been down to courts 1 and 2, they're very small as well. There's not much room to manoeuvre behind the baseline. So if you are serving big, it's a tough task for the returners to really kind of get into the service games. If we look at last 12 months, main level on indoor hard, Hurkacz, his stats are same as it ever was, really. 91% holds of serve, 82% first serve points won, and only 31% of return points won. That's the last year main level on indoor hard. Michelsen, very similar. Well, not as much in the terms of the holds, but in terms of the return points, he only wins 33% of return points on this surface. He's going to find it hard to return down there in the dungeon against Hurkacz. 6 of Michelsen's last 13 main level matches on hard courts have gone over 10.5 in set one. That's 46% of the time, which would equate to odds of about 2.17 plus 117. As I said, we're getting plus 155 here. We know Hurkacz hasn't played since Tokyo. Presumably it's the knee issue. Likely to be a bit rusty off the ground, you would imagine, but the serve should still be firing. There's no reason why it shouldn't be. So yeah, for me, set one overs looks decent here. Plus 155 over 10.5 for Bet Rivers.
Yeah, set one overs again in away from the centre court. Plus 155, 2 big servers. Even the total games here looks quite big. 23.5 over minus 110. You wouldn't be surprised to see a tie break in.
Could easily be 3 sets.
Great chance.
Yeah, given that Hurkacz is likely to be a little bit rusty.
Yeah, 23.5. The games is where we want to go. We want Hurkacz to come through. Obviously, he's our pick to win the tournament at plus 100 or 120-1 alongside Artur Feast at the same price as well. So we're going big this week. We're going big. We're going to try end the 1000s with a big high and get now one of our biggest tournament wins since we've been doing this show. Sean, before we head off, just give us the official picks before I do the run through.
Yeah, okay. So the outrights, as you just said, 220-1 shots, Artur Feast and Hubert Hurkacz, obviously both each way, which you can do with Bet Rivers. The matches, I'm taking Richard Gasquet to beat Cobolli, plus 165. That is Bet Rivers. Wouldn't be surprised to see a retirement there. Possibly a retirement in the next one as well. Draper against Lehecka. I'm taking Lehecka to win this. Jiri Lehecka plus 155 at Bet Rivers to beat Draper. And the last match bet is going to be Alexei Popyrin to beat Matteo Berrettini. I'm not sure what price it is. Plus 150? Yeah, plus 150 with Bet Rivers. So I'm going for the 3 match bets where I feel like there's some good value in the outsiders.
Yeah, 3 value underdogs there, 2 leans as well. If you've been following the bets since the start of the year, we're minus 10.01 on the year. We've got a Talks Cup week next week. This week, we've got another couple of tournaments the following week, and then it's the season finale in Turin. But as you know, we've got 9 to 1 shot. Jack Draper, who's a minus money favourite, running for us today. So if he gets the job done there, we are not far off level for the season here. Talking of being level, WTA show plus 0.09 in profit for Rory after Kenwin Zheng won last week. This week. They won this morning.
This morning, she's on here now.
Over in Tokyo. And on the football shows, the Premier League is plus 5.81 and the extra time show is plus 17.89. But there's lots of plays throughout today as well. We'll see them figures change. Remember, if you want to subscribe to the YouTube channel, Betting Weekly Studios, we across all the content, the tennis, the football. We have WTA, we have ATP Tour, we have Champions League. Everything's covered here, as well as the Betting Weekly Live. One of the handicappers will be on every single day, Monday to Friday, 11 o'clock Eastern Time, giving the best bets for that day. And also the Betting Weekly Dojo, myself and Neil Channing, when we talk all things sports betting. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel, Betting Weekly Studios. Download this podcast, Betting Weekly Game Bet Match, and subscribe to our socials at Because We Win on Instagram and on Twitter. And finally, I've been saying it a long time, but the newsletter will be coming out next week. So lots of new content coming through. Newsletter will be out as well. Make sure you subscribe to that on Betting Weekly Studios website. Put your email address and we'll add you to the email address that will be coming on the newsletter. And there'll be exclusive content as well. So it's all happening. It's all happening. Tennis season may be coming to an end, but we're going to go out with 220 to 1 shots and try to smash our way with a big winner throughout this week. 3 matches as well today. Remember, action starts at 5 a.m. Eastern Time, so nice early start. Me and Sean will be back on Tuesday, where we're looking ahead to the second round in a busy week in Paris. So thank you very much for your time, as always, Sean.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you all again on Tuesday here on Betting Weekly Game Bet Match.